So for this top, I'm going to be adapting a pattern for a bra top that I have made multiple times. I've talked about it on this channel a few times already. I'm going to pop it up here again just because I can't tell you enough how much I love this bra top. This pattern is really good and she does a really great job of explaining it. If you saw my recent video where I crocheted an entire outfit, this was the final product for the bra top. So what I'm gonna do is base a tank top pattern off of this. So I'm gonna make the cups a little bit bigger all around and make them not so big of a dip in the middle, and then I'm gonna make this part longer so it's a little bit more like a cropped tank top. So I've got these two. I've got some pink and some kind of like an off-white yarn that I'm gonna make a kind of a striped tank top out of. So to start the cup, we're gonna chain 9. Then chain 1 and single crochet. So we're going to single crochet back up the row. Now to start making a point, we're going to be working like this, but we're going to do 3 single crochets in this gap in between the 2 rows. Then I will single crochet down the other side. Now I'm going to continue to do that, and each time I get to this middle stitch that's like at the peak of the cup, I'm gonna do 3 stitches in 1. Now the original pattern for the bra top is 7 rows. We just did 2. That is obviously depending on your bust size. You will need to kind of hold it up to yourself and see what you like. That 7 rows is what works for me, but like I said, because we're going to be making these a little bit bigger, I'm actually just going to do this pink color for 4 more rows for a total of 6, and then we're going to switch colors. So now that I have this one, I'm going to do the second one and then we'll work on attaching them. So now I've got both cups and we're going to join them together. I'm going to do 1 more pink stripe before I switch back to white. So I'm going to do the same thing I have been. I will start over here, come up and down, and then I'm just going to slip stitch these 2 together before I go up and down the sides of this one. Okay, so now I'm going to switch back to the white and start the last set of rows, which also will include the straps. And when I've reached the top, I'm going to start a chain for the straps. This is a lace-up top, which honestly I think is like the most genius thing about it, because it is really easy to make sure that it fits. So the original pattern, she does 150 chains. I think I'm going to do 175 since this top is going to be a little bit longer. But again, just based on what size you need, you might need less chains or more. Now to come back down, I'm just going to slip stitch in each of these chains of the strap. Okay, so now that we are back, normally you would just start doing single crochets down the other side. I want this V to be a little less steep. I'm actually going to do half double crochets in the center part instead. So I'm basically going to be joining these two stitches together. They're loose because I tried it once before recording just to make sure it would work. So I'm gonna start my half double crochet in this one. I'm gonna yarn over and pull through once. This would be the same as if you were trying to decrease by doing 2 stitches together. Then I'm going to yarn over again, pull through once, and then pull through all of these. Then I can just go back to my regular half double crochets. And we have that nice V. So now I'm just going to do the same thing I did over here. I'm going to finish my half double crochets up here, make the chain, slip stitch back down, and then go back to single crochets down here. Then we'll get to how to start the bottom. Okay, so to start the side, you're going to chain however long you want each side to be. So again, referencing the original pattern, she does 15 stitches. Now I'm just going to slip stitch all the way across both the cups, and then chain another 22 on this side. Okay, so now that we've got the base of the top, as I kind of add more rows, this will all kind of even out. But now we can just kind of do a standard back and forth horizontal stripes. This, again, you can just go as long this way as you want. So I might go for like 18 to 20. I'm just gonna have to kind of try it on and see, and again, as I always say, that's something you'll have to do as well. So for this hoodie, I have this long rectangle. We're actually just going to be making 2 of these panels, and then the way it drapes on your body is going to kind of create the sleeve. So when you're deciding how long you want to make this, when you're making your initial chain, for me, it's going to be 110 chains. I just like held it up to myself and kind of like draped the long chain over my shoulders to decide how long I wanted this to be. So we're going to start off by chaining 110. For this first row, we're going to do single crochets. Okay, so for this next row, we're going to do this stitch, which I honestly don't know what this is called. I saw it was like part of a TikTok video that was pinned on Pinterest, and I just sort of like figured it out from what I saw. So if you know what this is called, please let me know. So we're going to start by chaining 4. So we're going to put our hook into the next loop and chain 3. And the third time you're going to pull through. So you're like creating this little chain. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through the back, yarn over, pull around the back, yarn over, around the back, yarn over, around the back. So we did that 4 times. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through this entire thing. Then we're going to skip the next chain, and in this one, chain 1, 2, 3, 4, and on the 4th, pull through all of them. So it makes this like little pillow with these chains on either side. So we're just going to do that all the way down the line. If you end up with extra stitches at the end, I would just do this chain again or do like a triple crochet or something to even it out. Alright, so now at the end of this row, we're going to chain 3. And turn, chain an extra one because we're going to be skipping this first stitch and doing a double crochet. Chain 1 to skip, and repeat that down the row. Follow up with another row of single crochets. Now for our last row in this pattern, we're going to chain 4, turn. Again, we're going to be skipping the first loop, so we will chain an extra, and for this row, we are going to be triple crocheting and then skipping. Okay, so this is the pattern, and now you just repeat that starting with the row of single crochets until it's as long as you like. I did 4 sets of this and then capped it off with one more row of single crochets to make this a little bit cropped, but obviously if you want this to be longer, you can just do another set or 2 to make it the length that you want. Okay, so now we are ready to stitch up the sides of this. I have the right sides faced together so that the seam will be on the inside, And I want to make sure that the sleeves are nice and roomy since we're just kind of taking this rectangle and letting it drape as a sleeve. So I am going to go, if each set of 6 rows is like one set, I'm going to do 1.5 sets. So halfway through the second set of stitches in between the double and triple crochet rows. So I'm just going to slip stitch to join here and then slip stitch my way up both sides to this point. Okay, so I've got these sides stitched up. We're still looking at the inside, and I want to show you what I got going on here. I have the hood pinned because I was trying it on to make sure it would work. So for the hood, I wanted to make sure that it would lay really nicely and be able to just not be stiff. And I think with this like really thick part of the hoodie pattern, if I had repeated this for the hood, it just would have, I think, been a little bit awkward. So I made the hood the same width as the rest of the hoodie. So that was 110 stitches. Then all I did was start with a row of single crochets. Then the rest of these are double crochets with 2 skipped stitches in between. So to figure out where to pin this, I've laid out the shirt part of this, and then I just kind of centered the hood and folded it over. This will be the neckline part of this. So now what I need to do is stitch together the shoulders and then stitch the hood to this top portion all the way around, all of which I'm going to do with a slip stitch. So I'm going to count my stitches to make sure that this hood is evenly in the center, and then do all of those slip stitches. Okay, so now that my hood is all attached and the shoulders are stitched up, the very last thing we're going to do is stitch up the top of the hood. So I'm just going to fold this in half and slip stitch all the way across. Okay, so for this top, we're going to be doing a ruffle top. So for this one, I did quite a bit of experimentation. I think I did this. I think this is the 4th time that I did this panel, trying to get the right amount of ruffle and the right length. So if this looks good to you, I would say follow my lead. If you would like there to be more ruffliness when we get to that part, that would be really easy for you to kind of make these ruffles even more gathered, and the amount of space that's between them, that'll be really easy for you to change that all up. Now to do this, I made my own yarn ball out of a bunch of scrap. You absolutely do not have to do that. I just felt like it, and I thought it would be easier to just sort of get this random effect if I just cut various lengths of yarn and wound them into a ball, but that is very extra, so you do not need to do that. So we're going to start by making this back panel, and then we're going to crochet these ruffles on top of it. So to make this, all I did was figure out how wide I want this to be. Since it has straps, you don't have to worry too much about if it's gonna be like tight enough to stay up. So for me, this is 50 chains wide. So now I'm just going to do rows of single crochets until this is as long as I want. I wanted this to be cropped, so this is 28 rows. This last one was one that I added later, so I'm going to do this single crochets for 28 rows. Okay, so now that I've finished this, I just tied off the ends and I'm ready to start the ruffles. So the final pattern that I came up with was to do a ruffle every 4 or 5 rows, and I ended up alternating them just because this was the length of top that I liked, but if you wanted this to be a longer top, you could do it in kind of even spacing. So I'm gonna alternate between doing a ruffle every 4 and 5 rows until I get to a total of 6 ruffles. And I'm going to be crocheting, so this is 2 and 4 rows, in these loops that are on top. And if I was gonna do it on the rows in between, I'd be doing it in these here. And it was helpful for me once I get started to hold it like this to make sure that I was staying on track. So if you've never made a ruffle before, it's super easy. All that you have to do is do multiple crochets in the same stitch, and the more you do per stitch, the more gathered the ruffles will be. So I am gonna do 2 crochets per stitch, and again, the spacing of the ruffles as well as how long or short you want the ruffles to be is totally up to you. So I'm gonna join with a slip stitch, and I actually am gonna be doing, I guess, quadruple crochets for this. I'm gonna chain 5, yarn over 3 times, then pull through 2 at a time, and now since that has made 2, I'm going to move on to my next loop. Yarn over 3 times, and just repeat that all the way down, and eventually they will start to gather like this. Now when I finished a row, just to keep from having to tie off a bunch of ends, all I did was slip stitch down the side of the ruffle and then up to the next place that you're going to start a new one. So now I will just chain my 5, and then I can start the next row of ruffles. Okay, so this might look a little different to you. I just thought having the front and the back both be ruffly, it was just like a little too poofy for me. So if you like a lot of ruffles, then go for it, but I decided to just leave the back plain, so it's just the same as this. It's 50 chains by 28 rows. So now I'm just going to slip stitch both the sides together, and then I will work on the straps. Alright, so now that we have stitched up the sides, we can flip it and we're ready to add the strap. And obviously you can kind of customize the width of this as well as how long you want it to be, as like where you want the top to sit. I am going to do 40 stitches for my strap. So I've done this one, and I kind of just made a guess initially of where I would want this strap and then tried it on to make sure that it was where I liked it. Join with a slip stitch, chain 40, then I'm going to join with another slip stitch in the back row, Then to get started on the next row, I'm going to slip stitch into the next chain. And come back up my chain with a row of single crochets. When I get to the end of my chain, I'm going to slip stitch again, then one more time, then I will turn it, and I'm going to do a final row of slip stitches down the chain. This is just the way I wanted to do it so that it would still be a relatively thin strap, but have a good amount of support. But like I said, if you want to do a thick strap or an even thinner strap, that's totally up to you. So once I finish this row of slip stitches, I will just slip stitch it one more time to join, and then the top will be finished. So those are my 3 scrap yarn crochet tops. I actually had a ton of fun making all of these. I think this is something I might do again. It's a really great way to use up the scrap yarn, but do something that is still, it's kind of like unexpected because you don't know which color's coming next. That just made me sound so lame that I'm excited by that, but whatever. I had a total blast doing this. If you make any of these, please tag me on Instagram. I will stick that here. It's also on the end card. I would love to see kind of how you make your own versions of this. If you like this video and you want to see more from me, feel free to subscribe. I post new videos 2 to 3 times a month. Thanks so much for watching this one, and I'll see you next time.